Good afternoon, I'm Ed Pozzuoli, CEO of Tripp Scott, and today is a follow-up on the President's bill that he signed last week, the Family's First Coronavirus Response Act. And with us again is Catalina Avalos. Catalina, welcome.
Hi Ed, how are you?
So this act that the President signed, not just this past time, the time before, in talking about emergency paid leave and family medical leave. Talk to me, when does that take effect?
It takes effect April 1st, so Wednesday. The law is not retroactive, so companies have to be ready to start implementing it on April 1st.
And as an employer, how do we know that a business, like clients of ours, their businesses are under 500, and how must they respond to this new set of obligations?
That's a really good question that we've been getting a lot from our clients, especially clients that have different companies under one umbrella. So if you have 500 employees or less, in essence, the law applies to you. The way they're going to compute it is they're going to look back at the way the Family Medical Leave Act looks at it, as well as the FLSA. And basically, if you're an integrated employer, if it comes under a control, it's a test that contains a couple of factors, and we would just need to look at it on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, so if I took my 500 employees and split them up into 100, but I kept control at the top, generally it needs to be pushed through that guideline.
Generally, yes. If it's the same board, the same type of management, we got to look at it closely, but yes.
If I'm more than 500, if I'm a company that has more than 500 employees, does the act apply to me?
No, it will not apply to you.
And Catalina, what about employers who have businesses that are less than 50 employees?
Businesses with less than 50 employees may be entitled to an exemption that is being worked out by the Secretary of the Department of Labor. And that's going to require the employer to demonstrate that giving the leave, whether it's the extended family medical leave or the paid emergency medical leave, is going to jeopardize the viability of the company from a financial standpoint. It's going to require some documentation. The Department of Labor is asking companies not to send any documentation just yet, as they're still trying to figure out exactly what they're going to request. And it's going to require a letter or certification from one of the officers of the company setting forth that the company is under duress.
What about companies that are looking to furlough or lay off employees? Are those employees still eligible under these new acts?
Once the employees are furloughed, terminated, or laid off, then it will not apply. And this is true also if the company closes as a result of of not being an essential business and one of the orders that are being put forth by the counties or the state.
So those employees who are either furloughed, laid off, or terminated, or the business goes away, those people are no longer covered by the act?
That's correct.
Okay. And then what can employees expect? How much money, and how does that work for them?
Well, the employees are going to, in essence, receive their pay. There are some caps on it, and the employers are going to receive the tax credit, sort of like what we talked about last week. One of the things for the employers to think about that just was recently released by the Department of Labor is the type of documentation that the employers are going to have to maintain. The orders that are being put out there showing that the schools were closed, that the businesses were closed, as well as medical documentation from the employees.
Okay, so things like if I'm quarantined, because God forbid I have COVID-19, I have to make sure I have my medical records. Or if I'm asked to quarantine by a medical provider, I have to have that as well.
As the employee needs to have it so that later on they can provide it to the employer, and the employer is going to have to keep that, as well as a copy of the orders, different orders in the state, in order to be able to justify.
So any records that would reflect some documentation of either the illness or some quarantine for preventative nature, or that my child's school is closed and I have to care for them.
Yes, and we recommend that the employers check with the IRS as well to see what specific documents and information the IRS is going to be requesting.
Okay, and if I'm caring for somebody who has the virus, do I have any benefit there?
You do have a benefit as well. It's capped at a little bit of a lesser amount. I believe that's a maximum of $200 per day or $2,000 overall if as the employee caring for somebody else. If the employee is the one who's impacted, the employee is the one who's sick, then it's $511 per day or $5,100 in the aggregate.
Well, I appreciate the update from last week, and so as this evolves, you'll obviously continue to monitor. Should any of our viewers have any questions, should they contact you and any further details?
Yes, they can contact me. We have a full team working on this constantly every day, looking at the updates from the IRS, from the Department of Labor, and we're happy to provide any information that we have.
And with that note, I wish everybody well, and please be safe. Thank you, Catalina.